Shelley, are we ready?
Recording in progress.
Okay. I'd like to call the meeting to order. First order of business is the approval of minutes. Hopefully everyone had an opportunity to read them. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
No questions, corrections? Hearing none. Mr. Garrett?
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Lane?
Aye.
Mr. File?
Aye.
Mr. Goebel?
Aye.
Mr. Horvath?
Aye.
Mr. Jordan?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Economic development area updates. Mr.
All right. In your packets are the financials for the month of May, and you can see that the money that you appropriated a couple meetings ago is reflected in this, in these account balances. You can also see the transactions for May and a list of our outstanding purchase orders. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions? No. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the next item in the packet is resolution number 2024-10. I'm going to read the title real quick. It's Resolution of the St. Joseph County Redevelopment Commission approving a first amendment to memorandum of understanding between the St. Joseph County Redevelopment Commission, the St. Joseph County Drainage Board, and the St. Joseph County Surveyor. This is an agreement that originally was signed back on December 13, 2022, between those parties for the improvements and the reconstruction of the Nespajani Ditch. When that original agreement was approved, the Drainage Board is managing the project. Our role is to fund the project. So when that original deal was done, the original contract for the project was $442,800. That was for the design of the project and one crossing structure over the new Nespajani Ditch. As the GM Samsung project has moved forward, we've needed to do an additional crossing on the Nespajani. This one will be for the employee entrance, which will be south, about 600 to 700 feet south of Fillmore Road. So there was cost of design and modeling of that crossing structure, additional design work that needed to be done for the project as the GM project kind of finalized itself. And then we also are now doing inspection. Inspection was something that would always happen as part of the project, but we didn't put it into the original number. So the new revised number for the project is 438. We're adding 438,700 to the project, so that's design and inspection costs for a total of $881,500. So this resolution before you today is an agreement that the Drainage Board has already approved. What we're doing is just coming back through with this resolution and approving the resolution to adopt these updated numbers in the MOU. If there's any questions, I will be happy to answer them.
So is this an amendment for what we approved last meeting, or is it an agreement signed in 2022, you said?
So this is an amendment to the contract signed in 2022, but it relates to the agreement we did last time to fund the ditch project.
Okay.
So now that we've contracted the ditch work, and they're actually doing a pre-construction meeting on the ditch right now, we didn't have instruction or inspection services anywhere, so that's what this relates to.
Okay.
So additional design and then inspection.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So this will get us to the end of the ditch reconstruction?
Correct, yep, yep. We don't anticipate any additional amendments for any additional work or anything like that, so.
Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve?
Thank you, Joe.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none.
We have-
Mr. Garrett?
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Lane?
Aye.
Mr. File?
Aye.
Mr. Goebel?
Aye.
Mr. Horvath?
Aye.
And Mr. Jordan?
Yes.
Motion carries.
The next item in your packet is a memorandum of understanding regarding sanitary sewer system upgrades. So back when we started the IEC work as it related to the GM project, we did an MOU with the city of South Bend to allow for a study to be done on the necessary sewer work that needed to be done to facilitate the GM project, but also then some additional study on some of the other lift stations, force main sections, things like that. Here, this MOU between the City of South Bend, the Redevelopment Commission, Board of Commissioners, is actually the construction side of the MOU. So this is a contract that will allow us to do the actual construction, all the inspection work, and any additional work related to the project. This is a MOU that was approved by the South Bend Board of Public Works on May 14th, 2024. A lot of work and coordination went into this. This is actually kind of years ago, when the original tech and coat sewer work were done, there was an original agreement. That agreement expired, so this is kind of a memorialization of some of the original terms and conditions, but then new terms and conditions moving forward. So a lot of appreciation and work, coordination went into this with City of South Bend, and Phil did a great job getting this negotiated. So we would just ask for your approval. If you approve this, then we'll take it to the Board of Commissioners in an hour for their approval.
Any comments? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Lane?
Aye.
Mr. File? Aye. Mr. Goble? Aye. Mr. Horvath?
Aye.
And Mr. Jordan?
Aye.
Motion carries.
So the next item in your packet, item number 3, is a presentation on a request to use redevelopment commission funds previously dedicated to the renovation of the new Carlisle Highway Garage to be used for road paving in the IEC. And by way of a little background, back in 2022, back in November 2022, the Redevelopment Commission approved Resolution 2022-2022, or 2022-22, in the amount of $1.8 million to provide funds for the county to rebuild the new Carlisle Highway Garage. Then again, in March 2023, we approved Resolution 2023-03, again, in support of this request to move funds. There was an issue with transferring the money. The purpose of the project originally was to rebuild the highway garage. We have since gone out, we bid the work. The bids came in tremendously lower than we expected. Funds are available. So when the original resolutions were approved, there was never a reverter clause in the agreement, so there wasn't a requirement that the money come back. But the talk on the presentation, as well as the minutes, kind of reflected that it was only for the garage project. So with you today is Sky Metters. Sky will be doing a short presentation. What we'd like to do is use those monies to do some necessary road upgrades in the IEC. And so I'll let Sky give the presentation.
Good morning, Sky Metters, County Engineer, Department of Infrastructure Planning and Growth offices on the 7th and 11th floor of this building. As Bill mentioned, this money was transferred over and appropriated for work on the new Carlisle garage, which was part of a bigger project of doing work on the new Carlisle garage, our North Liberty garage, and our Woodland garage. The money from the RDC, which was $1.8 million, was transferred over to and appropriated for the new Carlisle garage itself, because that garage itself services that new Carlisle area. The other two were funded through bond proceeds. What ended up happening was our bids for the highway garages came in pretty favorably. And we ended up having, some extra in not only the bond fund, but also the fund for the new Carlisle garage. As we got into and that project's still ongoing, but we think there's a good handle on, there's not going to be many change orders or anything like that to cause any issues. But as we got into the projects out in the IEC and started to get a better idea of how many workers were going to be in and out of those areas, and then looking at the road system that we actually have out in those areas, it became pretty evident that we needed to do some improvements to some of the roads. And when I say improvements, what this is for is mainly just mill and fill. We're not widening anything. It's just to make the roads that were mainly built for farm equipment and very low traffic into roads that can handle, heavier traffic and more traffic. One of our concerns is that the roads in that area, some of the only roads in good condition were the truck routes. And we were concerned that, 1,500 workers trying to get in and out of there would all be using State Road 2 and Larison, and you're gonna have a big backup or backups at 20. So one of the things that we thought through is, well, we need to spread the traffic out and have people going county roads to get into work, spread the traffic out. But to do that, we needed to make the roads better. So we did an estimate and went out to bid, and bids came back favorably for the roadway improvements out there. There's a map inside your packet that shows the roads that we're looking at currently. And the bids that came back for those roads were the best bids for roads that we've gotten since 2020. I don't know if it's the contractors are hungry or they just want to do work out in that area. I don't know what it is, but they were considerably lower than any bids we've gotten in the past 2 years. And so those bids came back in around 1.7 million for the roads that you see here, and that's mill out 3 inches, put back 3.5. And the plan is, if this is approved, to use the money that had been allocated for the new Carlisle garage for the pavement of these roads, and then pay for the remainder of the pay for the new Carlisle garage out of the highway bond that we'd gotten for the other garages. That's probably not as clear as I probably could have made it, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
I was looking at the unit on here. How many miles are we looking at here?
It's roughly, I thought it was around 7.4, about 7.5 miles. Typically, what we had been getting bids in is anywhere from $350,000 to $400,000 per mile, and this is considerably less than that.
So you got a railroad crossing on here. Is that going to be any additional cost?
No, we're gonna go right up, no, we'll go up to the railroad and we'll stop once we get to the right of way.
What is your process for improving the road?
What we'll do is we'll go in and, like I said, some of these roads in the future may need to be widened and so forth, but what we'll go in is we'll mill, and we mill out about 3 inches of roads, 3 inches of pavement, and then we go in and we put 2 inches of intermediate and then 1.5 inches of surface on top of that, and then we dress up the shoulders with stone.
Any other questions?
Is this all within the TIFs?
Yep.
That's all I've got.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Lane?
Aye.
Mr. File?
Aye.
Mr. Goebel? Aye. Mr. Horvath?
Aye.
And Mr. Jordan?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I'd like to skip item 4, BI4, and combine it with an item under the next section, if we could, please.
That'd be fine.
Okay.
All right, since we are skipping to me. And I have a professional service proposal from Iverson Groves to appraise 3 properties along State Road 2 in New Carlisle. These 3 properties are east of Larison Boulevard and will likely be acquired to allow for the development of intersection improvements at 2 and Larison. Mr. Groves' appraisal proposal is $750 per appraisal, so this amount would not exceed $2,250. Staff requests Commission's approval of this request. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Lane?
Aye.
Mr. File?
Aye.
Mr. Goebel? Aye. Mr. Horvath?
Aye.
And Mr. Jordan?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, I'm up again. This is also a professional service proposal. This is for Steve Santee to appraise the same 3 properties that we just discussed earlier. Mr. Santee is offering to do those appraisals for $600 each, so the total amount would not exceed $1,800. Happy to answer any additional questions that you might have.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Mr. Lane?
Aye.
Mr. File?
Aye.
Mr. Goebel? Aye. Mr. Horvath?
Aye.
And Mr. Jordan?
Aye.
Motion carries.
So the next item in your packet is a professional service proposal from Lawson Fisher Associates to do the Nespajani Ditch 2D hydraulic analysis. Over the last several years, probably at least the last 10 years, starting with St. Joe Energy Center project and even before that, we've been doing different modeling, or different sections of the Nespejani ditch doing different modeling, trying to understand drainage conditions, intermediate conditions, what happens when it rains, flooding conditions, things like that. This study is kind of a study long in coming that will really study from the beginning of the ditch, which starts up at the Norfolk Southern Tracks, north of the Energy Center, all the way down to the Kankakee River. And it's a project that, with all of the different projects coming and using the Nespejani ditch as a discharge area, really is an important study to do. We've again done segment studies along the way. We've done improvement work on some culverts. We've got some culverts that we're going to have to do. We've got a culvert south of Johnson Road that's a private culvert that may or may not impact drainage conditions south of Johnson. We've got a railroad crossing with Canadian National that we've done work, and we've put in additional pipe sections, but is it allowing proper flow? What is the Kankakee doing as it backs up into this area, and how does that impact seasonal water table issues and things like that? So this study is really long in coming to do. The study is really kind of a neat opportunity. It's an opportunity for our Drainage Board and our commission to work with the Kankakee River Basin Commission. Kankakee River Basin Commission has existed for a long time, but not generally done a lot of things in St. Joseph County or on the headwater end of the ditch. It's more really concerned with the Kankakee as it travels into Illinois. A lot of conflicts there that cause the corridor to back up. So this is an opportunity for the Kankakee River Basin Commission to partner with the county to do this study. They're willing to pay $50,000 of this $149,000 study, so a great opportunity to cost share on this project. So what we'd ask for your approval is, or we'd ask for two approvals. One is the approval on the study itself with Lawson Fisher. The other then, earlier in the agenda, was an MOU between Kankakee River Basin Commission and the Redevelopment Commission to partner on the financial aspects of this study. So we'd ask for your approval, separate approval on both items. If there's any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Not at all. Should we approve the memorandum first, or?
Recommend the memorandum first.
All right, thank you. Any questions first? No? Is there a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding regarding the 2D hydraulic analysis of the Nespejani ditch?
Motion to approve?
Second. We have a motion and a second. Mr. Lane?
Aye.
Mr. File?
Aye.
Mr. Goble?
Aye.
Mr. Horvath?
Aye.
And Mr. Jordan?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. And then a motion for the professional service proposal on the ditch, same project.
We got,
Yes.
Robert Krasinski, office on the 7th floor of this building, county surveyor. Bill did a real nice job in explaining this, but there's a lot of coordination that went into this process, and I want to thank Phil Garrett because he was heavily involved in that, and Bill, Sky Meters from IPG, the county engineer. This really started, as Bill said, about 10 years ago. It's been a long process on this Nespejani, and I just came from the pre-construction meeting, which is still going on, but I'd like to thank the board for all their input and support in regards to moving this ditch. But back in January, I think this year, Bill, when we went out there in the wintertime or February, and we've had multiple meetings with legal counsel, Mr. Garrett, and the Drainage Board is very supportive of this based on, we've been taking care of everything north of State Road 2. Now it's time to take care of the properties in the ditch south of State Road 2, as Bill indicated. And this is going to be a unique study, and I know Sky, when he worked for Lawson Fisher, did a lot of work on this Nespejani ditch. And even though that model was done in 2017, we will change that model a little bit. But we need to protect the farmers, as Bill indicated, and the other residents along the way, and especially our investment up north here, what's going on there. So appreciate the board's support in this matter, and I'd like to thank everybody else for all their input. Any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Very good. No, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, is there a motion to approve the professional service proposal before
so
us?
moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Lane?
Aye.
Mr. File? Aye. Mr. Goble?
Aye.
Mr. Horvath?
Aye.
And Mr. Jordan?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Next item is Resolution 2024-09, which is a declaratory resolution to establish a new economic development area, which we are referring to as Northern Edge, which would be in the Roseland area and on the northeast corner of the intersection of 933 and Douglas. We have Ryan Gallmeyer on the line from the Buckingham Group, who is going to give a brief presentation.
Good morning. Again, Ryan Gallmeyer with Buckingham Companies, address 941 North Meridian Street here in Indianapolis. Let me share my screen. All right, is everyone seeing my screen?
Yes.
Appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit about Buckingham and this Northern Edge project that we've been working on. Just a brief overview of Buckingham. As I mentioned, we're based in Indianapolis, been in business for 40 years, 400 employees, significant number of assets under management. Most of those are our own balance sheet. I think one thing that's interesting that you may be interested to know is that we are typically a long-term holder of our projects. We are not a merchant developer typically. 50% of our portfolio we've owned for more than 15 years. So you can see a little bit of the breadth of our experience being Midwest-based. Another important aspect of Buckingham that I think differentiates us is that we're vertically integrated, meaning that all the necessary aspects to develop new projects are within our four walls here in Indianapolis. So everything from our own marketing department, construction, pre-construction, development, are all within our house. We also, important to note, is that we manage our own properties. And you may be familiar with us based on our previous experience, having worked with Notre Dame in the past with Foundry Phase 1 and 2 on Eddy Street. All the multifamily are projects that we are both the owner and the developer of and continue to manage. So the topic of today, the Northern Edge mixed-use development, which would be on a ground lease with the University of Notre Dame. This has been a project that we've been working on for a few years. It started off as a RFP that the university sent out, and we were selected by the university, partly because we have prior experience, as I mentioned, with Foundry Phase 1 and 2. But also, I think, as I mentioned earlier, because of our skill and our long-term ownership, which leads to what we believe is a higher and better quality development because we build for the long term. We have worked through the county through the PUD process. We've worked with, for this project in specific, we've been in design, and we've garnered 2 permits from NDOT. We've been working with the county engineering, city utilities. All of those things are in process. We're actually close to 50% construction documents now, but this gives you and I'll dive in on the next pages, greater detail of the project. And also, to the extent you guys have questions, feel free. I'm happy to pause and address any questions. So this particular site, as you guys are well familiar, northeast corner of State Road 933 and Douglas Road. Currently an underutilized site that previously housed or had the married student housing before it was relocated a little bit further to the north. What we're proposing and we've been working in close collaboration with the university for, is a three-phased project. You can see on the color diagram here, the first phase, blue, which is directly adjacent to the northeast corner, is intended to have, it's roughly 15 acres. The overall site is 30 for all three phases, but the first phase, 15 acres, would have 374 multifamily units. Initially, about 13,000 square feet of commercial space, and in the next diagram, I'll show you exactly where all those items are. It does allow for two additional 5,000 square foot commercial, we're calling them outlots, but they're really part of that first phase. Those would be standalone buildings that, based on the success of the first 13,000, we can add the additional 10,000 or the two 5,000 square foot pads. The second phase, we're looking at a variety of housing types. So the first phase is really focused more on multifamily apartments, and we have some images of that. The second phase is really focused on a different housing type. These would be rental townhome units, potentially 2- and 3-story townhomes, approximately 114 of those. And then the third phase in green is 77 additional multifamily units, which we're currently identifying those for active adult or 55 and older. Based on how the project proceeds, obviously we want to start with phase 1, but phase 2 or 3, that's probably a little bit of a misnomer. Those could flip-flop in the future. Ideally, we'd break ground on the first phase, fourth quarter of this year. It takes about two and a half years to build that first phase. So completing in the 27 timeframe. The second phase would hopefully start, or in our current plan, would start approximately 1 year after we commence construction on the first phase. And then the third phase would 1 year after the second. So it would be sequentially. Each year we break ground on one additional phase, with the idea that the entire project would be complete by 28. And hopefully, can you all see my cursor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So this is a closer in diagram of the first phase. We're proposing 2 multifamily buildings. So building 1, this would be all residential. It's a 4-story construction. Building 2 is 4 stories, and then at this corner houses the 13,000 square feet plus or minus of commercial space in a double height volume, then with 4 stories of residential above. So really giving an appearance of 6 stories and then back to 4 stories of residential. This is a surface park solution, which provides all the parking, not only for the initial set of apartments and commercial, but also for these 2 future 5,000 square foot building pads. We're also proposing a standalone leasing and amenity building with pool outdoor amenities in close proximity. As far as how we would develop this site, the first building and the leasing and amenity would get delivered approximately 24 months after construction start. And then because the second building has a concrete podium for a part of the building, that building would deliver about 30 months after construction commencement. And then you can see here off to the side, this is a future building pad that could be a 55 and older or active adult building. Again, all the parking for that building would be part of the first phase. So everything, it would really just be a pad-ready site, similar in concept to these 2 future commercial buildings. We see this as a fantastic opportunity to enhance this corner and provide a far superior entry feature. Obviously, we're right off the toll road with great access over to several of your new developments over in New Carlisle and even further over to LaPorte, direct access or quick access to Chicago, close proximity to the university. I'd note that this project is really intended to be a market rate project. This is not intended to be a student project. However, there may be a few students or faculty that live at this site, but this would really revitalize and encourage future development along the 933 corridor. Before I move on, any questions on this particular slide?
I just want to confirm it's not like dedicated student housing. This is open to anybody that, except for the 55 and older area, this would be open to the public?
Correct. This is intended to be market rate. It's what we would call university centric, meaning although we're in close proximity to the university, it's not intended for student housing. And as you all may already know, the first 6 semesters of a Notre Dame undergrad are required to live on campus. So at times we may, in with our experience at Foundry 1 and 2, occasionally we may get a few graduate students or some faculty or perhaps researchers, but really not intended or designed towards undergrad housing. And even our unit types being primarily studios, 1s and 2-bedroom units with a couple 3s, but pretty limited, does not lend itself really towards an undergrad focus.
And then as I'm looking at C11, sheet C11 and D2, what is this yellow?
So, yes. And then Phil Facenda is going to talk through the declaratory resolution a little bit more. The way the economic development area is being proposed is it's a 4 allocation area, economic development area. So there's 3 phases to the project. And then the 4th phase, or the yellow phase, is a corridor section. It runs up State Road 933 through Roseland and then captures the old Holiday Inn site. So what we wanted to do was we wanted to capture projects that had increment potential that could then put back into the TIF pot. And the way, and I think Phil may explain this, but I'm going to ruin a little bit of his thunder, is that the way the allocation areas are going to be set up for areas 1, 2, and 3 is the developer will capture 85% of the revenue, and then 15% of the revenue collected comes back to the total allocation area. And so we'll get 15% of areas 1, 2, and 3, and then 100% of area 4, so that we can do projects in Roseland. So whether it's utility extensions, trail improvements, property acquisition and coordination with the town, whatever the town sees as principal needs for the town area. So this is a project area that every year we'll meet with the town leadership and set the priorities and set budgets with whatever increment gets generated through that corridor, so.
The goal being at some point maybe developing, getting that property.
Yeah, so there is a group, JSK Hospitality owns that property. They're actually moving through the review process right now to do some developments on that site. So we think that's some pretty, I don't want to say pretty quick increment hit, but it could be a really exciting new project, and that would give us some increment to do some things pretty immediately. So that's why it's got that weird little flagpole up the 933 corridor, so.
933 in Douglas, is that considered Roseland, or is that St. Joe County?
It is
like
unincorporated St.
jurisdiction?
Joseph County.
Okay,
So it is not within the town limits of Roseland.
good.
So the redevelopment, and just as a point of clarification, redevelopment commission can go within the town limits of the town. And there's no additional approval required of the town. We have met with the town. They're excited about this potential for the project, to do things with revenue that they just don't have today.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Okay.
Was Buckingham involved with the unit that's just north of that area? I think it's University Edge, those apartment complexes.
Yeah, Ryan, are you still on the?
Yes. We were not a part of our, the extent of our previous development is on Eddy Street in collaboration with the university and Kite Realty, who owns the commercial and hotels in that area. So we did develop 2 phases of the Foundry, phase 1 and 2, consisting of, stretch my memory here, but I believe approximately 650 units south of campus.
And then if we could have a brief presentation from Phil,
Thank you, sir.
please.
Mr.
Thank you.
Facenda.
Members of the commission, Phil Facenda from Bars and Thornburg, 201 South Main Street. We've covered, as Bill said and as Ryan pointed out, we've covered the project itself. Just to give you the structure of the transaction from here, as you're familiar with prior TIF declarations, this is a declaratory resolution. We will, if the commission approves this resolution today, this will be the first step. This will then proceed for approvals by the Area Plan Commission and the county commissioners. We will then give public notice for your July meeting and also provide the various overlapping tax units with a tax impact statement that will be produced by Senator Dalton, et cetera. This, as Ryan Goldmeyer mentioned, it's a 3-phase project. There will be 3 phases of bonds that will come as a result of it. As Bill Shalio mentioned, there will be. It is anticipated that 85% of the TIF from those 3 areas will be pledged to each of the individual bonds, area by area, three different allocation areas. And then the final allocation area, which is allocation area number 4, is the one that Bill mentioned will be used for improvements along the 933 corridor. So 100% of the TIF will be, from 4 will be used in 4, and then 15% of the TIF, if that's what we eventually end up with in our development agreement, will be available for 933 corridor improvements as well. At the next meeting, there would be before you a pledge resolution as well as a confirming resolution. So confirming this step to complete the establishment of the new economic development area and its allocation areas, and then a pledge resolution pledging to the bonds. There will also be EDC steps that will be independent of this body and county steps for the approval of the bonds. And then also you'll have a development agreement that's currently being negotiated with the developer that Phil Garrett and the county are working on that would come before you for approval. If any questions on procedure, I'm happy to answer.
How long do these bonds normally run? How long do these bonds normally run?
They will run for a period of the TIF area, which would be not to exceed 25 years from the date they're issued.
So I know there was the issue late last year about the bonds that we issued affecting our debt that we were able to take on as a commission. How will this affect?
Yeah, these will not affect the county's debt in any way.
Okay.
They are completely, the only revenue source that are pledged to these bonds are the TIF generated from this area, and no county funds of any kind are pledged to them.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Facenda.
Okay, thank you.
So is there a motion to approve Resolution 2024-09?
So moved.
Second.
Second, good.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Lane?
Aye.
Mr. File? Aye. Mr. Goebel? Aye. Mr. Horvath?
Aye.
And Mr. Jordan?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you for your time.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
No additional business
There's
at
no
this time.
additional business, therefore we move to public comment. As usual, if you are limited to 3 minutes, please come to the podium or online, state your name, address, and we're looking forward to hearing from you.
Good morning, Dan Caruso, 305 Compton Street, New Carlisle. Thank you for your work, for a lot of information picked up today. Since there's no hearing at these, at your meetings, I just thought that could we possibly consider going to a public hearing format when these issues come up, rather than me bringing up something you've just voted affirmative on, and I have some questions that I feel should have been answered before you voted, and I want to make sure everybody knew it. One in particular, the 3 properties on State Road 2 that are for appraisal were appraised in June of 2021 for acquisition, along with the Snowberry Road property, which the county acquired further to the north. The Motts, who own 2 of the properties, they live in one and rent the other, were all for the appraisal. But they wanted the appraisal on the rental property. They had no intention of moving. They were not willing sellers. My concern here is the ugly head of eminent domain going to raise here. Has Mr. Mott changed his mind? Does he want to sell both properties now? But again, these are questions that I think should have been asked before the vote in a public hearing format. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, just as a point of clarification, we went to the redevelopment commission to ask for the opportunity to appraise the 2 properties. The commission denied the request to appraise them at that time. They wanted the free market to take its will, so we never have appraised any of these 3 properties.
Correct. Is there anyone online who'd wish to speak? Okay. Mr.
Hello, yes,
Francis.
I do.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking comment. I do reiterate or second what Dan Caruso just mentioned.
Mr. Francis, I believe that's you, but could you state your name and address for the record, please?
Oh, sorry, yes, Steve Francis, Jude Lake Drive, Clay Township. I just want to second what Mr. Caruso said, and in certain situations, perhaps having public comment before you vote. I have some comments on the last resolution that was passed, and I wanted to make them and raise some questions or concerns prior to the vote. You're appointed by elected leaders, and this has to go through, I know, several layers of decision making. I'll have an opportunity later to raise those concerns, but the RDC oversees tremendous amounts of funds that are taxpayer funds in some sense, and establishment of TIFs and EDAs. In this case, the EDA that is starting to look like a gerrymandered legislative district in which, you're running up State Road 933 up to the Holiday Inn property. And I'm just concerned about, I now understand that you may intend to use those monies for bonding to do some utility work, perhaps along the roadway. But I do feel like this is a precedent-setting thing. TIF should be contiguous in nature. That runs almost a mile up north to the Holiday Inn properties, and therefore is not really contiguous, although it is by the road. I think on either side of the road, Roseland, the city of Roseland is there. Secondly, the use of TIFs in general, and the expanding use of TIFs here. We are suffering, those of us who pay taxes in the county, my taxes have tripled since 2019. You continue to expand TIFs, even in areas where not a lot of jobs are going to be created in apartments. They're market rate apartments. They're not apartments for low income, except maybe if there's some senior apartments. I don't know what's going in up at the Holiday Inn site and whether that is justifies establishing a TIF and using those tax revenues within the TIF districts. I want to caution the RDC. The public is watching. Tripling our taxes while you give tax breaks to big corporations, the one tonight on Amazon, is inadequate in terms of the amount of investment that they're bringing in or the jobs created in relation to the size of the tax increment financing of that project, as well as these be looking for the confirmatory resolution to look at the details of those. revenues and TIFs. But I do think that this was uncalled for, and I'm
Mr.
worried about
Francis, thank you for your comments. Your time is up, sir.
All right. Is there anyone else online who'd like to speak or in person? It doesn't appear so. So, all right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second. We have a motion and a second. Mr. Lane?
Aye.
Mr. File?
Aye.
Mr. Goble?
Aye.
Mr. Horvath?
Aye.
Mr. Jordan?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Lots of stuff this summer.